Okay, hi everybody. It is Jason from Junior Achievement here, and my very special guest is Michelle Weaver. She is the owner and founder of Dojo Reno. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, Jason. How are you?
I'm good. So,
Good.
Michelle has one of the most fun and also challenging jobs of people I know. Michelle, can you tell our students what do you do?
Yeah, so I own a martial arts school here in South Reno, and we practice a blend of four different disciplines of martial arts. And so our martial arts school has ages from 3 years old all the way up to adults.
Okay, that's fantastic. Now, let me guess. With a 3-year-old, I'm guessing that their martial arts skills and self-defense skills get to a certain point, but there's probably also other skills that you're teaching them, right?
Yeah, really, it seems silly, but all the way up through adulthood, same things. But for little guys, it's really following directions and starting that base of self-discipline. And really, at 3 years old, they start becoming involved in this martial arts culture at like a really young age, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I would definitely attest that the discipline, the self-reliance, the figuring out how to solve problems are all beneficial side effects of martial arts in addition to self-defense. How did you get
Yes.
it? How did you get into this? Were you a martial artist growing up?
Yeah, so my older brother, who's like a year older than me, was actually put in martial arts by my stepdad because he was so crazy at school. He just was constantly sent to the principal's office. I mean, at like first grade.
Yeah.
So they sort of wanted him to be in there for those exact same reasons, not really even a self-defense purpose or the sport of it, but really the discipline of it. And then I was in gymnastics, and I used to just watch my martial arts or my brother's martial arts classes and just want to do them. So I started around 6 years old, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. And did
Yeah.
you always know in your heart that you wanted to open your own dojo?
I loved teaching for all the different head instructors that I've ever gotten to teach with and be a part of their teams. I didn't really know that until I knew it, which was around like 2017, when I felt like I was really ready for that responsibility. I really liked following before leading, so I got to be up into I got to really take a position of leadership for about 10 years at another martial arts school, which taught me just a lot about all the ins and outs of what that means to own a school rather than just going and being proficient at martial arts and having a passion for it and then doing it. I got to learn a lot by following under somebody for that long of a time.
Okay, that's pretty interesting because I speak with lots of entrepreneurs, and for our students, a reminder is an entrepreneur, definition, an entrepreneur is somebody that starts a business. And there's a lot of different pathways. Some people always know they want to be an entrepreneur. Some people take a much longer path to follow first and then lead. How do you feel about your decision to sort of advance through the ranks somewhere else before striking out on your own as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of things for me come back to the the foundation of like what even being a martial artist is. And so martial artist is a ranking system. I
Okay.
mean, like, you know, you don't do things before you are supposed to. And a lot of times, even at a certain rank, and you're proficient at it, my instructor used to say, you know, you just marinate at that belt. So you just sort of be, and you just sort of get to reap the benefits of practicing the same thing over and over and over again, not necessarily needing something new. There's a lot of gratitude that's built up there. But it's always taken me a lot longer to do things, whether it was studying for a test or, you know, starting my business. I really do things when I feel most comfortable to do them. And so I like to take my time in that way. I'm not like my husband's a very like gifted person. You know, the first time he tries something, he's really good at it. I'm not so much that way. So I think just like the nature of me leads to that. But it's always paid off for me to really follow good leaders and to be under them for a long, long time before I take those small steps of advancing, whatever that is, whether that was becoming an instructor to a head instructor, or a head instructor to, you know, really managing a school to owning a school. I feel like I've always worn the shoes that fit me, which I was never running in too big of ones.
I love that answer. I grew up in Silicon Valley, where it kind of felt like if you weren't an entrepreneur by age 16, you had failed. And I knew a lot of entrepreneurs, and they seemed to have this endless thirst for taking risk. And I wasn't that way. I was naturally risk averse. And I took a little longer. I started my first business at age 28, which, again, where I grew up, that felt old. In the real world,
yeah, not at all.
I look back, I was a child. And one of the interesting things I learned, not just from watching who started a business, but who succeeded with their business, was there wasn't one particular way to do it. Some people took a lot of time to learn. Some people dove right in. Some people were gregarious and outgoing. Some people were introverted and shy. And what I found made the difference on who succeeded and who didn't was, one, who was offering a product or a service that the market actually wanted and delivering it. And then two, who was able to pivot and, you know, acknowledge when things had changed and go with the flow, which this is one of the reasons, students, that I wanted to talk to Miss Michelle, is because she started her business in 2017. And in 2020, we all got hit with the first global health pandemic of our lifetimes. None of us knew how to react. And I was extremely impressed with how Dojo Reno did it. Tell us, Michelle, when the pandemic hit, what were the things that went through your mind at first? Was there fear about your business? What did you do? How did you adapt? Tell us everything.
Yeah, I think for me, well, first of all, I don't watch the news. So I really rely on, I know that sounds silly. I don't watch the news, and I don't have a lot of like internet even sources for news, but I rely on a band of people. And so we have a really, our family has a tight band of people that sort of are able to, they're experts in their fields. And so they sort of process, and they're part of our team in delivering a lot of different information, you know, just through conversations. So one of our dear friends that's on that team is a physician here in Reno, and he's one of our students as well. Okay. So he understands sort of in terms of the pandemic and our school, really like holistically how things are relevant to one another. And so a week before the governor had shut down, actually a friend of mine, his name's Keenan, and he just opened a jiu-jitsu school in San Diego, and he had just put out this video saying that he was encouraging martial arts school owners to shut their schools down. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow, you know. And Keenan is so smart, and he's again, he's just another person that I look up to. And I thought, here, he just opened his school and he's saying this. And so I immediately called our friend and our student, and I said, you know, what should we do? And he said, you need to immediately shut down. And we had already, me and him had the conversation about doing an online program earlier this year. I mean, just a couple months before this, we need to shut down conversation, and more in the sense of it being something that would be a really awesome addition to like what our normal classes were, especially for people that maybe weren't feeling good or are professionals and aren't able to come in, or if students move away. So it was sort of in those terms, it was still too big of a thing for me to grasp, as I run every class here. It's just me and my husband that, you know, run the school. We have a great team of assistant instructors, but it's really me. So I couldn't really wrap my head around starting an online thing while doing this school. But as soon as he said, you need to shut down now. So it was before the governor had mandated it. It was more of it was like a responsibility that we felt like we needed to take, and to get ahead of it. So I think in martial arts and self-defense, our train of thought is always to stay ahead of a curve. So we just think like that. I think we try to think like that all the time. So fear has a place, but it wasn't for like right then. It was more understanding what's going on, understanding what our responsibility was, understanding what we can do, what we need to do. So we immediately, and being closed, we were able to actually put all that time into this online platform, something that we really wanted to do. And so we brought in a great, awesome team of local photographers and videographers. Their name's Luke Taylor and Nick Shaw. They just started their business, started together. They're young and awesome, but they're really good at what they do. And because so many of their jobs had gotten canceled at casinos and, you know, different tourist things that they were booked out to do advertising for, they were able to do that for us. And so it was about 3 months. It was the whole closure. Basically every 2 weeks, we were on a really strict schedule of shooting our curriculum. I have an awesome team of assistant instructors who is ready to, you know, do Zoom classes. And we just tried to get as organized of a system as possible and have a plan and be able to implement it like right away. We just tried to do that as quickly as possible.
That's a fantastic answer. And there was a lot there. So I want to unpack a little bit of it for our students. So I think Michelle is actually being very humble here. So when the pandemic hit, not, as she mentioned, she and her husband work in the dojo. They also have this a beautiful young son who is basically being raised in the dojo, sweetest little guy. So she's a mom on top of everything. When the pandemic hit, even before everything was forced to be closed, martial arts is the kind of business where people are touching each other and in each other's spaces. And the first instinct a lot of people may have is that all the dojos are going out of business. And in addition to everything, when you run a dojo, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're paying rent to a landlord. You still have to pay your rent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So while a lot of us were spinning our wheels and wondering what's going on, within just a couple of days, Michelle and her husband decided we're going to take something which is a very touchy-feely service and figure out how to put it online. They created a whole lot of content with videos to show how to do stuff. They figured out how to do live Zoom classes with their students. And then as things started to reopen, I'm sure some of the parents and students were ready to come back to the dojo and some of them weren't. So the other thing Michelle and her husband did was they realized the customer is your boss. When you're an entrepreneur, how do we do our best in a difficult situation to make everyone as happy as possible? How can we do some Zoom classes, some in person, and still keep our lives? So that was something I thought was really impressive. Michelle, I would love it if you could show us the dojo and kind of explain what goes on there.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that, because opening the school was not an easy thing. It was like, even though that's the thing everyone's like waiting for is to reopen, it comes with a whole new set of policies and rules and responsibilities, and that was a lot. And so when I'd walk into other places that weren't doing that, I understood where that uncomfortability came from. So it was really insightful. Our lawyer and our doctor who I was speaking of earlier, they're on our team. And again, they told us everything that we needed to do, everything that we needed to change. But what's cool was those new parameters we're able to get even more organized. And so I think a lot of really like cool things came out of it. But I'm happy to show you around, and hopefully this won't get too nauseating here. All right. So when you come in to our front doors here, we have all of our kids, they sanitize up here, and then we shoot their temperature here. And so a big change that we made to our class schedule, in addition to reducing the amount of class size, we've never had a cap on classes before. We don't need to either, but now we did. And so we're able to check these guys in, and then they come into the mat space. I was teaching by myself for the longest time. I say the longest time, 2 weeks. I didn't want my instructors really coming in until we got a hold of it. So I printed their faces, gigantic, on these posters. So I felt like I had my team with me, and these kids that were coming in, and they'd see, you know, yellow tape all on the ground and their temperature being taken. That it's part of something more fun than that. And then of course, this is my dog, who is I always say is my first employee. And we just made it fun. You know, I had stickers of all these heads printed out. And so as the kids were coming back, you know, they're really missing their instructors. And so they could pick a sticker head out every single day. And we just sort of eased back into it. We also made it mandatory that they wore masks. So again, all of that's new. And so we sort of wanted to bring some new fun in with that new strange. And I think I think those things always balance themselves out.
Okay, we lost video for 1 second.
Well, sorry.
That's fantastic. And one thing that I noticed, the entire dojo looks extremely clean. It looks like you guys are taking care to clean up after people are there.
Yeah, I mean, we always ran our classes back to back. So one of the things that we needed to restructure was to have this disinfecting time in between. We're already a really clean school. We've always been like that, but this is something different, and we needed to respect that it's something different. And even though I had to tell our students right from the beginning, you know, as far as like to ease their mind about the chaos, that, you know, science takes a long time and we're in for this thing. As they find out more, that we're able to adapt to those changes. So even though they find that it's not, even since we reopened, that it's not living on surface, or that's not the way that it's transmitted as much as living on surfaces. Well, the 9,000 other things that our kids get sick with every year do live on surfaces. And so it's just sort of cool, because I think this year, all of these precautions are going to lead to us just being healthier and sort of mitigating even the scare or possibility of this thing coming into our school. Our students are really on board with what they do outside of the school. Again, we're a culture, so I know we're a business, but we're a team, like, first and foremost. Our students, our families, and so I have the luxury of and privilege of having a lot of like-minded people, which I know a lot of companies do not. You know, they're sort of trying to wrangle a bunch of different types of people. We have a bunch of different types of people here, but they all have the mentality of you know, to figure things out and to get going and to have gratitude and to give people opportunity to figure things out, give themselves the opportunity to figure things out. And I think then it becomes less nerve-wracking and more just, you know, just sort of being more patient.
I love that. So now you've been an entrepreneur for about 3 years, and I've been studying business my whole life. What is going on now is probably the biggest shock that I've witnessed in our lifetimes. Are you happy about your decision to become an entrepreneur?
Oh yeah, I mean, I know it's funny. I have family that works in different industries, and so they're rethinking, like, your question, like, should I be doing, you know, what I'm doing here, like working at a bar or working in health or whatever it is. I love it, you know, like I think that, well, first of all, me starting a business or entrepreneur, this is authentically like who I am. This is authentically what I love. It's not, I learned a lot about running a business from my previous martial arts school owner that I got to be a part of his business for a really, really long time. And he taught me a lot of things, or I picked up on a lot of things, like to invest money into making things look nice and to create a really professional environment, which isn't always the case with gyms. I think gyms can get a little, you know, like lived in looking, and it's sort of things like thrown by the wayside because people are already there and you don't need to do that for them. Where he taught me that, you know, just making things look nice and stay nice is really, really important. But I think that, you know, I will always be a martial artist. I mean, it's what I love to do. Not that I wouldn't go do a job somewhere else if I needed to, but I will always be a martial artist. And so, you know, there was still people that they had their jobs still, their kids had nothing to do. Everything was shut down. So there was still a place, you know, as far as like for a business to keep going, there was still a place for us. And more than ever, you know, for sort of that philosophical guidance of, and sort of to bring back some some like courage to yourself, or what am I trying to say? Some confidence, you know, because people are feeling, and especially kids, just really unconfident during all this time of not knowing what's going on. So martial arts is like it's like a glass of water when you're, when you're deprived of something.
I totally agree. I think it provides some stability, something extracurricular, discipline, respect. I mean, I think it hits a lot of the important buttons. Now, one thing you said a minute ago was you are authentically a martial artist. If you were giving advice to potential entrepreneurs, it sounds to me like you're suggesting go with what you actually believe and where your passion is instead of just following money. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. And I think those things do take time, back to what we were talking about before. You know, like people would ask me all the time, even at my other martial arts school, like, why don't you own a school? You know, because I have a lot of ownership no matter what job I had. Even I was working at Abercrombie and folding shirts, you know, like I have a lot of ownership in what I do, but there's a difference between like being ready for that, you know, and I just feel like I'm not, I don't want to say I'm not confident about it, but like I feel like there's a time for it. And so I think if you spend more time figuring out and building yourself up to whoever you are, then you can bring that into your business. But if you're constantly in this conflict of who you are, what you like, what you believe, I mean, I can't even relate to that. I really can't. I think you gotta spend time learning from others and figuring things out, and then take that forward with you in whatever baby step ownership things that you're starting to do in your life. But I think working for others is a huge piece of something that needs to happen for all entrepreneurs. I mean, and for some, maybe they grew up in a family business, you know what I mean? Like their time started way before most people's do. I'm not saying that it's necessarily an age thing, but I think you need to, you know, that whole thing of paying your dues, that's sort of an unheard of thing now, with how quickly one can become successful on their own, you know, just because of how fast videos can travel and what you can write and what it can seem like. I mean, the thing is about here is we just are what we are. There's really not like there's not really like a whole much to that. And we put a lot into it, but.
Yeah, well, one thing I'll suggest is, as a customer of a lot of businesses, it is easy to tell who is authentic and cares about their business and who is just trying, you know, who's just there for the money. And you tend to, as a customer, I tend to gravitate towards local businesses where I can meet the owners and they seem to just care. Even when you're not booking, they're cleaning, they're being nice to their workers, they're being nice to their customers, they're trying to make things better. I think that's one of the ethics that really matters for being successful. Do you have any advice? So this has been a great interview, and I thank you very much. Do you have any final advice? We might have students anywhere from about 3rd grade to about 12th watching this video. If somebody has a passion and maybe one day wants to run a business, what parting advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say to spend a lot of time doing whatever that craft is, or, you know, even if you start a business, you know, to start small and have it all, you know, like you don't need to compare or look at what maybe somebody else in your field is doing. If you're not there yet, you're probably not there yet for a reason. Those things take time. I think if people would ask me all the time in my first year, what do you project? And I said, I have no expectation. And I know that's probably like a bad thing, actually. Like if you wrote it down in a business book, I just found, I mean, I signed my lease and found out I was pregnant in the same week. So the lease before the pregnancy thing. And so it was like, failure was not an option. I mean, in a way bigger sense to me. So I know 3rd and 12th graders might I mean, having a family and stuff, that's a big adult thing. But for me,
Yeah.
starting to build a family, it was like, it was not just about me anymore. I think that that was really an important piece. But, you know, you do things as you can do them. There's always that voice inside of you that says this is right or this isn't right. You have to go with that voice. You have to have a team of people around you that do not tell you just what you want to hear. I think that is the most important part. Beyond me just being who I am and doing what I do, it's the people that we listen to. Jason, you're even one of them. You know, I mean, really, you're part of that group of people that said, you know, I think this is a very good idea that you're closing right now. That gave me a lot of confidence in that this is right. Because not everything is feel goods. I'm not saying it's going to feel good, and the right things are harder to do. But yeah, you got to have a team of people, and a lot of times they're your parents, but they'll tell you what you don't want to hear, but it's the right thing to do.
And going with that for one sec, can you always make everybody happy? Or
yeah, no, I mean, I think that you can't always, you might not be able to always offer somebody everything, but you can absolutely be understanding. And I think like those two things are like they're not contingent on one another. It's not, you know, if somebody needed to stop their membership here and we have policies normally in place, there's an understanding for why we couldn't do something for them, or there's only one of me, so I might not be able to teach 9,000 Zoom classes or something like that, you know. So but having that communication, which again, if you are who you are, your customer knows who you are, you've already mitigated so much of that sort of tension about like someone not feeling like you're doing what right by them. But having a lot of empathy goes a long way. And that's when you hear the saying, the customer's always right. I think part of that is just, you're not self-focused. I think anytime you're really self-focused, that can be a detriment. When you're thinking of others, it's a much, much more higher level of thinking, and it'll take your business higher.
I totally agree. And the thing that I've found with some of the businesses I've started is in my experience, you can't always make everyone absolutely happy, but you can always listen to everyone respectfully. And very often they'll have good points, and you may be able to find some sort of a middle ground. And most people, as long as you're trying your best, what I found is usually they'll react in kind, and they'll try their best. And if you're fair, they'll be fair. And
yeah, well, that's like the conduit that you're choosing to go down, is that we're going to listen to each other. I think I really respect that if a client, a parent, a student says something to me, they probably represent a number of other people.
Yeah.
So to me, I don't ever think it's just, sorry, Jason, that it's not just it's not just that one person. It might feel like that initially. I know there's that visceral, like you're having a conversation with somebody and you feel like and especially if somebody might be frustrated. I don't experience this a whole lot, but that you think it's just isolated, but if you can sort of, again, take a breath and think, there might be a lot of other people that feel this way. You will combat it differently. You'll address it differently. You'll just feel differently about it entirely. And that problem solving then is going to lead you to what's going to be best for your business.
Okay, I love that. Let's leave it there. I'm going to stop the video. So for everyone watching, again, this is Michelle Weaver from Dojo Reno in South Reno. And she is just a fantastic role model of someone who not only followed her passion, but has really learned to deal with adversity. Thank you, Michelle.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Thank you, guys.
Okay, whoops, hold on.